Hey everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, I'm really excited to have with me Night Ranger keyboardist Eric Levy. During our conversation, Eric brings us up to speed on everything Night Ranger, as well as some of his past musical endeavors. Eric also shares with us what it's like touring with Sammy Hagar, as well as what it's like performing in front of Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons. These are just some of the stories that Eric shares with us, and I think you guys are going to really enjoy this episode. While you're here, take a moment and hit that subscribe button below on my YouTube channel. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, please subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. Now, without further ado, let's get started with my conversation with Night Ranger's Eric Levy. All right, hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn. Today I'm really excited to have a special guest with me, keyboard player from Night Ranger, Eric Levy. How you doing, Eric?
Oh, I'm doing great, Mike. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. So, obviously right now in the world, we're going through a pandemic and all these crazy things. Where you're situated, how are things going? Are you, your family, your loved ones all okay and safe?
Thank you. Yeah, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Okay. Yeah.
And, depending on where you are in the Bay Area, some places have been more dangerous than others.
Mm-hmm.
But fortunately, I'm what they consider North Bay. And yeah, up here, protests have mostly been peaceful. I think the first day somebody got hit by a car. Yeah, right. Mostly relatively peaceful.
Okay.
Nobody got shot up here, unlike some other places in the Bay
Thankfully.
Area.
Yep, thankfully. Well, I've seen online you keeping a little bit busy. I've seen you with some videos. I think you call them vibey videos. I call them like a little bit crazy, and crazy in a good way, right? You got keyboards all over the place and you're playing all different things. So talk a little bit about how you've been keeping busy.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And thank you first and foremost so much for checking them out.
Yeah,
much appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It's we've been in this house now for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And I guess slowly over time I've built up this room. Mm-hmm. So now I'm to the point where I've got keyboards all over and they're inspiring to me, and I love it. It's I feel like it's a good compliment too for when I'm going out and playing shows where it's like, I can go out with Night Ranger and I can have a blast, and
sure.
And we're rocking. Mm-hmm. But then it's like, I can give myself fully to that music, and then when I get home and I have a chance to be in my studio, then it's like, okay, what experiments do I want to try here? Sure. And feel like I have an outlet for the videos to do that. So I feel like it's I've told people this before who are in bands, for whatever I know, however many years I'm into this, is when you're a band, don't expect that band to do like, to fulfill your musical dreams in every possible way. Sure. It's just not going to happen. You get people together and everybody's going to sound a certain way. And, when you're in that band, give yourself to that music and don't feel like, but I can do this really cool riff and how can I implement this
right.
into that band's music? No, it's, give yourself to that music and that ensemble. So I encourage other musicians, have your own creative outlet, and that way you won't be pressuring your band to do something that maybe isn't part of what that band should be doing.
Yeah, and to that point, when I watch some of these videos, it is so not like Night Ranger, right? Not what rock fans would expect. But I think that's kind of cool. It's like a whole different side and a whole different element. Some of it's almost like a little like electronic-like a little bit. And it's just, I said crazy before because I mean that in a very complimentary way. It's just like... Oh,
super appreciated.
Yeah, it's like a little bit like, whoa, okay, this doesn't sound like Don't Tell Me You Love Me. That's for sure.
Right.
Right. So let's talk a little bit. So this summer, obviously, we were talking a little bit about there being a pandemic and everybody's stuck in the house now for a while. You guys were supposed to be on tour this summer with Night Ranger. Obviously you guys are Night Ranger with Sammy Hagar and Whitesnake. So talk a little bit about that. I'm sure there was some disappointment of that being canceled.
Ooh, we had right. we had such a great year lined up for 2020. It's beginning of 2020, I was like, this year is going to be incredible. You know, little little did I know, but
sure.
we were slated to play. I think a 30+ show tour with Sammy Hagar and Whitesnake this summer, and we did a couple week run with Sammy Hagar last year. And what a fun band.
Sammy likes to have a good time.
What a fun band to be on tour with. Yeah, it's musically too. Every show that we were playing with them, I was really enjoying the music and going out and listening. It's great players in the circle. So it's disappointing. It's not what any of us had in mind.
Sure.
But but at the same time, I feel like I'm having. I was thinking about it yesterday. I was like, if I don't end up playing any tour dates this summer, and I'm hoping something comes through and we're able to do something, but this would be the first summer that I haven't toured at all since 1992.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So I've been, it's like unfortunate that I've been able to be a touring musician, but at the same time, I've got 3 kids here at home, and so I'm really trying to be like, okay, well, what can I really be doing to make good use of this time? And from a historical perspective too, it's like, especially what we're going here, what's going on here with the riots and the protests is, I want to be careful about my use of the word riot. Rioters they're very, very few percentage of the people. Yeah, the vast majority of people here in America are peacefully protesting.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Is there any talk about maybe rescheduling that Sammy Hagar Whitesnake tour, or is that now done and in the past it's not going to happen at all?
I am sincerely hoping that we are able to, in fact, do that tour. It's as far as it's Live Nation and our management and booking are hopefully gonna, because wow. Yeah, I could tell story. Nothing crazy or anything, but just being out with Sammy Hagar for the time that we did last year. It's first of all, he's got a VIP bar area that's backstage, so it became kind of like the routine of Carrie Kelly grabbing me on our way to the stage and be like, wait, come here.
A shot of tequila?
Before I know it, we're drinking shots of, forgive me, Sammy, I'm forgetting the name of the current liqueur, but it's excellent. So we're, doing shots of that. And then the two of us are also over on stage right, which is Michael Anthony's side of the stage. And he's had the same bass tech for decades and decades, apparently, who Carrie also knew from back in the day. So we go over there and hang with him, and he's a cool dude. Yeah, it's just fun. Music is great. The time is great. Yeah, really seriously hoping we're still able to pull that one out somehow.
Absolutely. Now, the interesting part of it also is, you've spoke a lot about Sammy Hagar, understandably so, right? If you see right over here in the corner of my room, I got a big Sammy Hagar poster. Love Sammy Hagar, right?
Wonderful.
But you were going to tour Whitesnake on this tour also, which had a couple of Night Ranger alumni as well.
Exactly. So, which makes things really interesting. Yeah.
Right. So had you spoke at all with any of the guys in Whitesnake about that?
Joel, sure, Joel and I are still actually. Joel and I are involved in a song project. I don't know exactly what to call it right now. And I love it. It's I don't know exactly how much I can say about it yet, but I think Tony Harnell, the vocalist, just teased it today on Instagram. I want to say I saw. So hopefully coming out soon, a video with Joel be in it, and I'll be in it, and few others. Yeah,
that's awesome. I mean, Kerry's great. I love Joel as well. I thought Joel was an amazing guitar player, so I'll definitely keep an eye out and look forward to that.
Oh, wonderful, awesome. Yeah, Joel is, and I love Carrie, and I love
absolutely
Carrie, and he's a phenomenal guitar player,
absolutely.
No question.
Yep.
Joel, I think because both of us grew up in Chicago.
Okay.
And I moved out to California out west, and he moved out to New York City out east.
Mm-hmm.
But, Night Ranger brought us together.
Sure.
And so, yeah, I feel like, he and I have kind of a shared view of the music scene coming from Chicago. And, just, yeah, I consider him lifelong friend and phenomenal player.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So just talk a little bit about how did you actually, you said before you were touring since 1992. Who else did you tour with in the past? And then how ultimately did you make your way into Night Ranger?
Oh, sure. So let's see. If I started 92, that's the year I graduated high school.
Oh, wow. Okay. Nice.
And yeah, I'm not sure if you wanted the entire.
No, hey, you give me as much as you want. That's fine with me.
Oh, right on, Mike. Awesome. As I sip coffee here.
Go right ahead.
So yeah, fall semester of 1992, I started college, and summer of 93 and 94. It was one of the trumpet players at my university who got me this gig out in Virginia, working at Busch Gardens theme park. So
okay.
that was my first touring experience. Which I guess I don't know. Maybe I don't know if that counts as a tour or not.
Okay.
I was away from home for an entire summer for 2 years. I did that.
Nice.
Playing that was all big band music that I was doing out there, like jazz. Big band jazz from the 30s and 40s.
Yep.
And then I ended up meeting a guitar player out there who ended up getting a gig on a cruise ship. And so summer of 95 and 96, I went and worked with him on a cruise ship and left school. And I, at this point in my life, I was like, my sole ambition was basically just like, wow, I love being on a cruise ship. This is fun.
Right. Okay.
I grew up in Chicago where it's cold, and now I'm hanging in the Bahamas.
Nice.
And I'm
How could
playing
you
music
complain about
every
that?
night, laying on the beach during the day. Like, what could be better? This is great.
Absolutely.
So, so I was kind of like, I'll just do this for a while, and not really a whole lot of ambition at that point. But I had a college professor named Fareed Hawk, and he's a guitar player. And so in '98, after 2 years, a year and a half out full time on the boats, he called me up and said, hey, would you be interested in joining my band? And to me, he was my favorite player I think I had ever played with. And in many ways, still my favorite guitar player. So, so I was like, yeah, sure. Got off the ships, joined his band, and then he ended up hooking up with a couple guys out in San Francisco Bay Area, connected with the jam band scene. So I don't know if that's a term that's made it out your way.
Sure, I've heard it. Yep.
Oh, great, yeah. And for me, it was a total surprise. I had listened to, I had a few Grateful Dead albums, but I had never been to a Dead show.
Right.
Knew nothing about the culture, nothing about the scene.
So you weren't a Deadhead.
All of a sudden, Fareed hooked up with these guys in San Francisco, and next thing I knew, we had formed a band, and there were two of us from Chicago, and two of us from the Bay Area, and before I knew it, it was like I was never even home. In between tours, I was like crashing on the drummer's couch, out here in California. And I just loved it. I loved being out here, and I loved the jam scene and how it was, wow, people are playing improvisational music.
Sure.
And there are people who want to hear that, and they don't mind if they hear mistakes. They're in it to hear, like, that magic moment that might happen that they are there for, and we're all there for, and experience things like that. Yeah, so I spent basically 10 years, a decade of doing van tours with them.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And at the same time, I had an opportunity for a few years playing with a group called the Brides of Funkenstein.
Okay. What kind of music was that?
They're a offshoot from P-Funk, Parliament Funkadelic.
Yep. Okay.
So they've got their roots from back in the 70s. Later 70s, George Clinton started putting out albums for people who were part of the P-Funk family, I guess. And so Dawn Silva had a group called the Brides of Funkenstein, and then she put some things together in the Bay Area back in the mid aughts to late aughts, and wow, just it's still, when I look back at the bands that I've been in, that was some of the most fun music I've ever played, most grooving. But so
very different than where you are now. It sounds like
very, very different. Which is
cool.
fortunate to have had a diverse career. Yeah,
that's so cool.
The jam band that we had, we were mostly instrumental and playing really like jazz fusion, Indian jazz fusion, a lot of odd time signatures. But somehow we were able to like somehow fit in this jam band scene, which is really open to bands that have really different sounds, and people embrace it.
So yeah, before you get getting into Night Ranger, I have to ask you then, what type of music did you listen to growing up as a kid? Right, because you got all these different backgrounds. So now I'm really curious. What were you listening to as a kid?
Oh, sure. Yeah, my tastes were pretty eclectic.
Sounds like
my mom was. Yeah, my mom was she didn't want me listening to like hair metal back then.
Okay.
So yeah, when I was younger, it was like I wasn't allowed to listen to any of that, and I was listening to she always had the Christian stations on, the Christian rock. So I was hearing Christian rock, but she was also like, yeah, you can listen to instrumental music,
sure,
and you can listen to rock and roll from like the 50s and 60s. So
okay.
Yeah, so I started out listening to oldies rock and listening to jazz and classical music, and finally near the end of the 80s, we got cable TV. Okay. And that's when the dam broke, there's no more controlling what I was going to hear and what I wasn't going to hear. So at that point, really started to dig in.
Sure.
But I had eclectic taste. I think even then I was really interested in going back, and because I had started with the 50s and 60s rock, at that point I was like, well, what was going on in the 70s?
Right. Okay. That's so cool.
Yeah, started to try and go back, and I would go to the library and check out like the CDs of like a band's greatest hits and bring it home and like dub on cassette the songs I liked and make my own mixes.
Absolutely. That's awesome. I miss those days. I was just talking with a friend of mine yesterday about making those mixed cassettes and all those kind of things. I sometimes miss those days. So yeah. I'm not surprised to hear all that background that you just said. So you were just leading up to, I guess, when you were joining Night Ranger. So how did that transition start to happen for you from doing these like really non-rock, non-traditional bands to now going into one of the bands from the 80s, one of the great bands from the 80s, Night Ranger?
Yeah. So I was playing in a rock band in the late aughts. And we were called the American Drag.
Okay.
And the leader of that band, the lead singer and songwriter, guitar player, is actually lives in Nashville now and plays lead guitar for the band The Guess Who.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Classic Canadian band.
Yep,
actually. Will Evankovich is his name. So he 2010 we were playing in this band together, and he called me up and said, hey, I'm having a birthday party at my house. Do you want to come? And I was like, yeah, totally. I'll come to your birthday party. And he said, can you bring your keyboard and just leave it in your car? And I was like, yeah, okay. So I packed up my keyboard in the car and went over to his party. And then at some point in the middle of the party, Jack Blades from Night Ranger appeared and came over and said, hey, I'm wondering if you would play on a track on my solo album right now. And I said, sure, yeah. I just happen to have my keyboard in the car.
Sure.
So.
Okay. That's funny.
Yeah. So I went out, grabbed the keyboard, brought it inside, and Will's house at the time, his recording studio was literally in his living room, like in the middle of his living room.
Okay. In
the middle of a party, we sat down and recorded a song together.
Nice. Which song was that? Which song?
I've tried to find that one.
Okay.
And I think that might actually be a song that didn't end up making the album.
Gotcha. Okay, which is funny.
Either that
it's funny how that works out. Right?
Yeah, I've looked for it.
Okay.
Maybe it. Yeah. Anyway, Jack ended up calling me up and calling me over for more songs to his studio, and at the time he was living in the Bay Area too, not far from where I'm at all.
Okay.
And so meanwhile, while all this was going on, actually a little Night Ranger tidbit of history. If you're interested.
Absolutely.
It was during these Jack Blade's solo album sessions that the song "Growing Up in California" came up.
Oh, really?
Okay. Yeah, and that was the main single off the Somewhere in California album.
Yep, absolutely.
That we recorded in 2011. And so Will was engineering and co-producing So he called me the day before, and he was like, "Hey, check out this Night Ranger Rockin' America song, and see if that inspires you to come up with a part for this song that we're going to record tomorrow."
Okay.
So I went and I'm checking out Rockin' America, and then I went in and we recorded Growing Up in California. Well, an early version of it the following day, and so the keyboard parts that I'm playing on that are directly inspired, like absolutely directly inspired.
That is very cool. I never knew that.
In Rockin' America, yeah.
Okay.
So
I love that song too.
Oh yeah, it's fun, great song.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So meanwhile, while all this was going on, that guitar player Fareed, who had gotten me into the jam band scene and all of it, he was leaving the band, and we were planning to continue actually as a trio, and we set it up. Our record company was on board, ready to go, and our booking agent was on board, ready to go, and we took photos and we recorded a few song demo, and we were ready. You know, But this was the end of 2010, and we didn't. All we were missing really was just any gigs on the books. We didn't have anything booked yet for 2011.
Sure.
So we had one tour left on the books, which was between Christmas and New Year's.
Okay.
And the night before I was leaving to go on this tour, I got a call from Jack Blades, and he said, "So the keyboard player for Night Ranger's leaving the band."
That's Michael Lottie, right? That was Michael Lottie.
This was actually Christian Cullen.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Michael had gone back to wow, where's my brain today? Great White.
Yes.
Michael had gone back to Great White.
Right.
I think Christian was in the band for 4 years. After
you're
that.
right. You're right. Yep.
So so Christian was leaving, and Jack was like, we're about to record a new studio album, and then we're going to go on a world tour with Journey. Are you interested? And I said, yeah, I've got a week left on the books, and I'll be home in a week. And yeah, totally into it.
As you're telling the story, you're smiling from ear to ear. So.
It's a fun story to tell. Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Yeah. So that night I'm like, well, what should I even listen to from Night Ranger? So this was back in the iTunes days, and I had an iPod, so I downloaded Night Ranger's Greatest Hits, and I also downloaded what was their latest record at the time, which was Hole in the Sun.
Yep.
And actually, I've been in Night Ranger now for a decade, and we've never played a single song. Never played a single song from that album.
Yep, absolutely.
That'd probably be a good one to be prepared with. So I'm like on the road in van tours, like checking out these songs in my earphones, like, and I wasn't telling anybody. I'm just like, what's this really about? Let me really check out the repertoire. Right. And then we played our last show, and the following night we're driving back to the Bay Area from British Columbia, Canada, and we hit some black ice on the road, and we ended up like in a ditch in the snow, and waited 3.5 hours for AAA, and fortunately we were all fine. Everything was fine except the van itself, which we ended up abandoning in Washington State and getting a minivan and somehow fitting all our gear in. And it was an adventure, but it felt at that point kind of like a clean, like, okay, this chapter in my life that I've been going through feels like it's definitively over, and this new chapter seems like it's definitively beginning. So I was fortunate that events lined up like that, because I really didn't know exactly what I was getting into at all, but I quickly realized, if I'm involved with Night Ranger, this is first and foremost what I'm doing. Sure. And everything else that I do has to find a way to fit within this.
So based on your upbringing, you said before you really weren't into or weren't allowed to listen to a lot of the 80s music. So were you familiar with songs like Sister Christian or Don't Tell Me You Love Me or When You Close Your Eyes? Did you know any of those songs before you started listening to this Greatest Hits tape?
Actually, the first Night Ranger song that I really was familiar with was The Secret of My Success.
Yep, okay.
Which was actually one of their last
biggest songs.
Really, mainstream hit songs.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that was 1987. I'd just gotten cable TV, and the movie The Secret of My Success was on, and and so it's actually a fun antidote about that. We did a outdoor television performance in New York City, Midtown Manhattan,
Okay.
Back in summer of 2016.
Okay.
And 2016. and so we're outside, and we're for one of the commercial breaks, we were playing "The Secret of My Success." So we go into it, and I'm standing there and I'm playing the song, and suddenly I start looking around at all the tall buildings in Midtown Manhattan, and I remembered the intro sequence of the movie "The Secret of My Success," which is the actor Michael J. Fox looking up at all the tall buildings while the song is playing. So I all of a sudden had like this full circle moment. Like, wow, if I could have been a kid watching that movie and imagining, go back and tell myself
20 years later, you're going to be playing.
You'll actually be looking up at these buildings while playing this song. Yeah.
Right. That's very cool. So then, obviously, the first album you recorded with the band was Somewhere in California, right? And like you just talking a little bit about growing up in California, and some of that being with Jack previously. Then you went on tour with Journey. What was that like that year? The whole recording process and going out with Journey, like for somebody like yourself who was just introduced and just joining Night Ranger to go on a tour like that and record such a great album like that.
Oh, thank you. Back then too, that was when Jack still had his home and his studio. We're in the Bay Area, so we had a central studio that we were all able to go to, and because I lived so close by too. I remember Jack would call me and just be like, we're probably not going to record any keyboards today, but just show up, be a part of it. So a lot of days I was just showing up and hanging out, and there for overdubs, and just a part of the whole thing. Right. And so that meanwhile, okay, so yeah, when it first started, it was like, it was kind of like a getting to know you period, and Jack was like, well, we've all decided that we want you to be the keyboard player for the album. As far as like the live band and live shows, let's see how this goes first. Okay. So at first it was like, just show up, be creative. And in retrospect, it's like if I would have just showed up and auditioned for the classic Night Ranger hits to begin with, I don't think I would have done as well. I didn't have the experience at that point of knowing what it takes. Really there's the mentality of being in a pop band. Actually, that's not to skip around in the story, but it reminds me of something that Joel Hoekstra told me when I was first joining Night Ranger, and he knew that I was coming from the jam band scene, and let's just get up on stage and improvise and see what happens. So I remember Joel being like, hey, I know where you're coming from, and the scene that you're coming from is really about improvisation. And this gig playing with Night Ranger is really about execution. It's like, what parts you're supposed to play. Can you nail them night after night? Can you nail these parts? And he was really the one who was like, don't discount the stage presence part of it, because that's huge. That's a huge part of what we're doing as well. Right. So always remembered that advice he gave me from the start. Great advice.
It sounds like he somewhat like took you under his wing, so to speak. He kind of made you feel comfortable joining the band and all of that. And that was his first album with the band also, I think, right?
It was, yeah. I think it was, I think Jeff Watson actually played guitar on Hole in the Sun.
Right, exactly, yeah. So, very interesting. So then coming off of that, you guys did High Road. And I know you were a little bit more involved this time with some of the songwriting, right? You've been in the band, you did one album. I think you had a song on there, Don't Live Here Anymore, which I think is great. It's a great piano song. Then it goes into this crazy, again in a good way, crazy Brad Gillis solo, and then into a piano thing at the end. Talk about writing that song, because it's in some ways it's a really like an epic song to me. It's a great song. So talk about that a little bit.
Wow, thanks. That song, they definitely had like that piano part that the piano part that I play. I think when I showed up the day that we were working on that, they already had that piano part in mind.
Okay.
So yeah, it's I was involved with the composition, but more so some chord progressions. Okay. And yeah, refining some of the melodies, I guess. But yeah, they Jack and Callie mostly had the backbone of that song ready to go.
Okay.
when I came in. But the other thing I remember about that day was I was super sick. I had a flu, and and I was not feeling good. But but Jack was like, can you make it? And I was like, wow, I think, yeah. I'm sick, but could I get through a day of recording? Sure, yeah, I could get through it. So I went over and I had the flu, but that's when we finished writing it and we recorded it from there. Yeah,
right.
And yeah, I love that song too. Epic. We haven't played it in a while now, but
it is one of the songs though you did play during that tour a little bit here or there. So maybe one day it'll make a comeback because that's epic song. Epic song.
Oh, thanks. There have been a few times during sound check when I heard somebody go into it, and then I'll go into that piano part. But I would need to review at this point.
Of course. It's been a few years, right?
Yeah.
Now, you had also 2 other songwriting credits on that album. I think it was Only You Only and Brothers, if I'm not mistaken. So was it the same thing for you with that, where you just came in and suggested chord progressions? Were you the one writing the piano parts? Just talk about your involvement in those songs.
Sure. The Only For You Only was, that's the most involved I've been with any Night Ranger composition. That one, yeah. I wrote the, I guess I wrote the verses, the intro, verse, chorus sections, but I didn't even have necessarily an exact melody in mind. I just kind of played it the way I played it and made a recording of it and sent it off to the guys, and then Jack wrote just these beautiful lyrics, and I think he sounds amazing. It's singing it. I actually just went back and listened to that one last week, and his voice gives me chills. I'm like, how did he? The way he heard that melody line too through the verse, it's like it's like a harmony to what the piano's playing, and it works so well. And then I had the initial idea, but it was really Jack and Brad and Kelly who all took it to the next level, and we all wrote the bridge together and the guitar solo section. Those it never would have been what it turned into if not for them elevating it.
Yeah, I think one of the things Night Ranger fans love about the more recent albums from the last decade is, the albums before that, we mentioned some of them, and I'll throw in 7 as well, were a little bit of a departure of the traditional Night Ranger sounds. Whereas I remember, when I first got somewhere in California and growing up in California, I'm like, yes, that's Night Ranger. That's the Night Ranger I love. That is the classic Night Ranger sounds. And I really feel these last 3 albums, and I know we didn't touch on Don't Let Up at all yet, but I feel like the last 3 albums are really a return to the classic Night Ranger sound. Is that something that the band spoke about? Like, hey, we got to get back to, I'll say, our roots and that sound. Is that a conscious decision the band made?
Wow. Now that you mention it, it's when we were working on Somewhere in California, it's like, to me, everything was new. But the main thing that I tried to do was to bring back the keyboard tones from the first albums, because even by Seven Wishes, classic keyboard, Night Ranger keyboard parts in those songs too, no doubt. But the keyboard sounds themselves were starting to shift from what they were on the first and second album, on Dawn Patrol and Midnight Madness, where Dawn Patrol was a lot of organ, a lot of Hammond organ, as well as some synths, and Midnight Madness was more synths and acoustic piano. So I still to this day, whenever we do any Night Ranger recordings, it's like I try and start there with those tones. So I'm like, what are the classic Night Ranger keyboard sounds? To me, it's organ, it's piano, and it's those early 80s polysynths. Alan Fitzgerald was playing Roland Jupiter line. Which I actually don't own a Roland Jupiter.
Okay, that's funny.
I've got some software that emulates it well, and I've got a bunch of Moog synthesizers around.
Right. So, last year you guys did tour, and I'm mentioning this because you just brought up on the Dawn Patrol, Midnight Madness. So there's a bunch of shows you did with both of those albums in totality, and I'm so disappointed when you were here in my town. I was away for the weekend and I missed the show. Is there any talk of maybe my daughter who went to the show busts my chops all the time because I saw those songs live and you're not going to see half of them. Is there any talk of maybe revisiting that when you guys are able to start touring again, or is that now a thing of the past?
Oh, I haven't heard anything specifically about it, but I would be I would be very surprised if it was a thing in the past.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Yes.
we felt really good about doing those. We call them the double album shows.
Sure.
The
Absolutely.
Dawn Patrol, Midnight Madness, back to back. Yeah, it's been. Jack's a great storyteller too. So
Absolutely.
he kind of opens it up on those shows too, like in between songs at times, like really. Yeah, giving anecdotes and perspective to what was going on with the band at the time that these songs were recorded. And so for me, it's been a blast. It's like really just open it up on those two albums, and the keyboard parts on those two albums, especially too. There's some wonderfully fun keyboard parts.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would expect that. We're not gonna play that format every show, of course, but right. I would be surprised if those went away. I would think we'll continue them. Yeah.
Good. I hope you do, because then I'll have to travel and see one just so I could say, yes, I've seen, because I love that those first two albums are incredible albums. Was there ever any talk maybe of doing something with like Seven Wishes, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, if I got my timeline, it's the 35th anniversary now of that album. So any talk of incorporating that into like your full album shows?
I haven't heard anything about doing the full album, but it's not to say it won't happen.
Fair enough.
The first two albums have gone well, so maybe there will be an opportunity. That would be a blast.
Right.
We already do the Seven Wishes song and Sentimental Street 4 in the Morning from that album.
Goodbye, I think. Yeah. So
Goodbye.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Absolutely. So I think you got half the songs almost covered already. So
right, we're already doing half of it.
Right. Right. Absolutely. So in 2017, when you guys released "Don't Let Up," I think it was an interesting time for the band because you got another great new album coming out, but then Kelly, when the tour is getting ready to start, is not able to go out on tour with you guys for, I think it was a couple of months, if I remember right? He had a heart condition. What was that like for the band? All of a sudden, a main component, right? Kelly's such a great drummer, a great singer. All of a sudden, he's not there for a few months. What was that like for the band?
Wow. It was long rehearsals. I mostly, I was just my heart was with Kelly. I was like, I hope his health is good, and I remember saying straight away too. I was like, if the band feels like they want to postpone shows or cancel shows, of course I'm in. Right. I'm all in. Whatever we want to do. But at the time, Jack was doing a project with Dean Castronova, the Revolutionary Saints.
Yep.
So he had reached out to Dean to see if Dean was into it and available, and turned out that Dean was available for most of the shows. So we ended up. Fred Corey came and played a couple with us, and saying he did a great job. Yeah. And I think maybe by like our fourth show, Kelly was like, I'm not supposed to play drums, but I can come up on stage. So he actually came to the shows, just a few weeks after surgery, a month after surgery. He's up on stage, and he was smart about it. He wasn't moving around a lot, just kind of like there with the mic.
Right.
And that was fun. That was really fun, getting a chance to, because Dean was playing drums on the with Journey when we did the 2011 tour.
Okay, yeah.
And about once a week, Dean would come up and play Sister Christian with us.
Okay.
And Kelly would go out and be in front of the crowd,
right?
and let Dean play. Yeah. So in a way, it's like we already had experience playing with him, and he's just super talented, just
Absolutely.
Phenomenally talented.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it all ended up working out. Unfortunately, and in some ways, I feel like Kelly's like the healthiest guy in the band now. Sometimes
that's so
it's
funny.
like, wow, he's outpacing everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
That's funny to hear you say that, because one of the things I said anytime I see Night Ranger, it's amazing to me. You hear so many of these guys now who hit their 60s, late 50s, and their singing voices just aren't what they were in the 80s or the 70s. It happens, right? It happens to everybody. But Kelly and Jack, their voices still sound damn near so perfect to what they were. God bless them. They're so lucky. It's funny hearing you say how he's healthy. But I remember the last time I saw Night Ranger, I said, God bless those two. They could still sing with the best of them from the 80s. It's amazing.
Oh, they joke around at times that, hey, we were smart back then and we didn't try and sing like as absolutely high as we
Yes,
possibly
that's
could.
true. That
like
is true.
some vocalists
That is very
some
true.
vocalists were doing. So yeah, because they were smart about their range and they didn't try and hit the very, very top notes. Yeah, it's but credit to both of them as well. Like when we're out on tour, a lot of times, I'll be hanging at the bar. The guitar players will be hanging at the bar, but both of them are like, they're not going to stay out too late and make sure they're well rested and taking care of themselves so they can be up on stage delivering like that. Because like Kelly back there, the physical exertion that he's putting out just as a drummer, and those pipes coming out, he's he's really putting a lot of physical exertion into it. So those gentlemen take very good care of themselves to be able to pull it off.
No, it shows. And Jack still got a ton of energy. I say he's got more energy than me. And he's probably 15 years older than me. God bless him. And I don't know where he gets it from. So, when you guys
got a lot more energy than I do.
it's good for him, right? So when you play in concert, I know like a bass player usually locks in with the drummer and vice versa, right? Is there somebody in the band that you're locking into while you're playing, or how is it? How do you perform with the band? Who do you lock in with?
That's a great question. We have a wonderful monitor engineer named Howard Bennett. Okay. Wonderful in every way. And so ever since he joined us, and I realized off the bat, I really like the way that he's just like hearing my mixes and giving me mixes. So from the start, I've been like, do your thing. Whatever you think I should be hearing, go ahead and put it in my ears. And if I really need something, I'll ask for it. But otherwise do your thing. So I think he's got like a web of I don't know exactly what he's doing, but I think he's got a web of things going where it's like certain people hear more of certain instruments and then other people. Okay. He's got like science behind it, basically. So I'm not sure who like really hears a lot of me and who maybe doesn't, but as far as what I feel like I really need to hear is the drums first and foremost to make sure that I'm rhythmically locking in with Kelly is of prime importance. And then the other thing that I really need are lead vocals. So it's like I want to be able to hear Jack and I want to be able to hear Kelly first and foremost vocally. And also to be able to sometimes Jack will take me by surprise with his talks in between songs. Before I know it, he's pointing at me and boom, I better be ready.
You better be ready, right?
To hit that note. But as long as I can hear lead vocals and the drums, because we're getting we have guitar amps on stage, we have a bass amp on stage, no keyboard amplification on stage, so I do need to hear myself. But as long as I can hear enough of myself to know that my keyboards are working, I'm better off hearing drums,
right?
Knowing I'm locking in.
Interesting, very interesting. Do you have any favorite songs to perform with the band?
Sister Christian's always special because depending on the night and where we are and what the mood is and the vibe is, but Kelly will always start singing the song, and then at certain parts of that intro, he'll just stop singing and leave it to the audience. So every night I have this moment in time where it's just me playing piano, accompanying like all these people out there singing, and I never want to take that for granted, and I never get tired of it. That's a magical moment to be able to connect with all these people out there in that way musically.
I could totally understand that. When you're on the road, is there anybody from the band specifically that you hang out with more? Like, is there anybody in the band you get I know you said you met through Jack, but who do you hang out with on the road?
I'm usually kind of doing my own thing.
There you go. Nothing wrong with that.
In between, it's if we got, and we're all hanging together too.
Sure.
But it depends. Like I said, Jack and Kelly, they're usually not going to be hanging too late because they're trying to take care of themselves. But with the others, I'm more prone to be hanging with them at the bar afterwards.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure, that makes sense.
but everybody gets along really well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really cliquey. I think
Right.
when I first joined, it was more cliquey.
Was it?
I remember at some point being told, "Hey, you need to join a clique, or you can create a clique with the sound man, and the two of
Okay.
you guys can have your own thing."
Interesting.
And I was like, I don't know. I want to be friends with everybody, but
Right.
everybody was still friends back then too. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, I think more than ever, we really are a unit, all of us, crew included.
That's so cool. So cool to hear. As you were talking today, one of the things I remembered is that you were saying back in like 92, 93, one of the first things you did was playing on cruise ships. And I'm a huge Kiss fan. And in 2013, you guys were on the Kiss cruise. So for me, it was like the greatest Kiss cruise I could imagine. Night Ranger, one of my favorite bands. Kiss, one of my all-time favorite bands. What do you remember from the cruise? And what was it like for you, having played on cruises in the past, now to all of a sudden be back on the cruise? And I know you did Monsters of Rock also, but do you remember anything about the Kiss cruise that stands
Oh
out in your
yeah,
mind?
yeah. I've never seen anything like it before or since.
Okay, oh really? In what way?
Were you on that one? In
I
2013? You were
yes,
on
I
that,
was.
on
Yes,
that
I
cruise?
was.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. I think, what moments do I really remember? I remember. I think the first night, late at night, I had gone to the buffet, eat the dining buffet area, and there was just like this mass of people all like huddled together in the middle of the place, like singing Kiss songs together at the top of their lungs.
I think I was there.
Oh, you were part of that?
Probably. Yeah.
Singing at the midnight buffet.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was like, wow, this is something. Like, people are really coming together. And other than that, I remember times where I was just walking around random decks, just taking pictures of people's cabin doors. Because how elaborate some of these were.
Absolutely.
I had a blast on that cruise. I remember too, there was a band, Vintage Trouble.
Yes, great band. Yeah.
I had recently heard about them, and then I realized, they're going to be on this cruise too. And I was blown away by their energy, and that was a great time. I really enjoyed that one.
It was, to me, it was a lot of fun. Again, I remember one of the days you were playing right after we were getting back from an island, like you were playing at 5:00. And my family was with me, and I remember saying to my family, well, we're going to get back on the boat at 3 because Night Ranger's playing at 5 and I'm not missing a note. And they were like, why do you got to be there 2 hours early? I was like, because I got to be near the front, close to the front of the stage. And you guys did some great shows on that boat that year to me. And the last night, I know Tommy Thayer jumped up on stage with you guys and did
That's right,
Rockin' America the last night.
Yeah.
So, to me, one of the cool things was a bunch of Kiss fan friends that I know knew Night Ranger, but knew Sister Christian. Maybe they remembered Sentimental Street. Maybe they knew Don't Tell Me You Love Me. But afterwards, they were like, that band friggin' rocks. Oh my God, that band is so tight. That band is so incredible. Like, everybody I knew that was just, I'll say, casually into Night Ranger came up to me and said, I get why you like that band. Damn, they're one of the best live bands I've ever seen.
Wow, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thanks for spreading the word and spreading the love. Yeah, thanks.
Well, it was a testament to the performances the band did on the boat that year, because to me, like, it was one of my favorite cruises. In fact, every year when Sixth Man, who runs the cruise, says, if you could have one band to return, who would it be? Night Ranger. That's it. That's my answer every year. Every single year. That's my answer.
Oh, super appreciated. Thank you. Super appreciated.
So you guys have also done the Monsters of Rock cruises also, right?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so that must be pretty cool with like all these different bands from the 80s and whatnot.
Yeah, it's a blast.
Right.
Monsters of Rock cruise is, I think the first memory that pops to mind of the last one that we did was every Monsters of Rock cruise. I think they do it every year. The Saturday night full set late night show is played by the band Faster Pussycat.
Sure.
And Carrie and their drummer Chad have been like close friends for years and years and years. So when Carrie got in the band, we started seeing a lot of Chad hanging around.
Okay.
And so we've gotten to know each other and become friends over time. And so I went to check out the show, and I was standing backstage and I noticed I was like kind of behind stage left, and I noticed that up on stage I saw that Carrie was up there and that Brad was up there, and Eddie Trump was up there. So so by the second song, Carrie's like, "Come on up, come on up." I'm like, these guys want me to be on stage with them. I only really know one of them. Right. Carrie's like, "Come on up." So we were just standing on the side, the left-hand stage left side of the stage for the entire rest of the show, just up there passing a bottle of Absolute back and forth between us all, chugging Absolute, and there was the show. It was a total blast. Those guys are a great party band, and that was another one where I'm like, if I could go back and tell my high school self, sure. The first time I remember somebody playing me Faster Pussycat on a cassette, someday you'll be hanging out on stage with them.
Right. You would have said, no way. Yeah. So, and then think back to when you first started playing and you said, hey, I'd be fine with just playing on a cruise ship. And now you get kind of like the best of both worlds, right? You get to do these cruises on pretty much an annual basis, on a semi-regular basis. And you also get to be in a great rock band touring the world as well.
Wow, you're right. Yeah. Every time we do one of these cruises, I always have the thought of like, I want to find like the band guys who are like the ones who work on the boat all the time, and, go hang with them. Right, those are my people. And as of yet, I'm still yet to encounter them, because I remember working on ships and us having charter cruises. I remember us having a blues cruise where we didn't play at all. We didn't play. The very last night they had a blues jam, and we were the house band to start it out, but I only played like a couple songs before opening it up to whatever all keyboard players wanted to come up.
Sure.
So so for those cruises, I remember working on board, and that would just be like time off for us. That was like party time. Let's go Absolutely. Check out the music, and have a party on a cruise ship for a few days.
Right, absolutely. So I mentioned before, I'm a big Kiss fan. I know besides the Kiss cruise in 2014, you guys also did a couple of songs with Ace Frehley at a benefit show.
We did.
How did that come about? Because the band sounded great. You guys did a couple of Kiss songs. If I remember right, it's Cold Gin and Rock and Roll All Night, right? So
we did.
Yeah. So
wow. Yeah, that's exactly what we did.
Yeah. So how'd that come about?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how the show came together. I know it was in Turlock, California, at a I don't know if it's I don't know what they technically refer to it as. Kind of like a rock and roll museum / performance center. Okay. And I think they were just opening it at the time, so it was us, but then it was
George Lynch also, right?
George Lynch also, yeah. Yeah, at one point, everybody was up on stage for "Don't Tell Me You Love Me," and we just had like 4 guitar players going at it for the solos. Yes, let's just open this up and let all the guitar players jump in the pool. Yeah, but I think my favorite moment of that night was we did a Q&A where we all sat on stage for about a half an hour. And somehow I ended up sitting right next to Ace.
Oh, really?
And, so every time he would talk, he was great. Telling jokes.
Right. He's a character.
This is killer. Yeah, this is wonderful. Right. Actually, I'll tell you my favorite Kiss story.
Go ahead.
Was I think it was the night that I first met any of those guys. It was the end of 2011, and we were done with our Journey tour. And there was a benefit going on, a benefit concert. I think it was in Las Vegas. Maybe I can't remember where it was now. Maybe Vegas, but Kelly was involved with it, and Jack was involved, as well as who all? A bunch of people. We did. I won't go into everything, but the plan was that the very last song of the night we were going to play Rock and Roll All Night and Party Every Day. So it was us on stage with the people who were involved, and Tommy Thayer was up there with us, and was playing drums, and so it was like we had half of Kiss
Right. Okay.
up on stage with us playing rock and roll every night, and then both Gene and Paul were sitting in the crowd.
Oh wow!
So we were playing this song for Gene and Paul. that was the night that I met all these guys. Yeah, that I thought that was a pretty fun moment too.
That's cool. I never heard that story before. That's a cool story, and it must have been nerve-wracking. I'm thinking with Paul and Gene sitting there. I mean, I always think that's nerve-wracking whenever you see Hart performing a Led Zeppelin song, and there's some of the guys from Led Zeppelin watching. I'm always like, that's got to be so nerve-wracking on a musician to have the original artist watching as you perform their song.
Oh yeah, I guess depending on there's no keyboards on the original version of rock and roll.
That's true.
Maybe the pressure was off because of that. I'm like, it doesn't matter what I play. It's not going to be what was on the album anyway.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. When you look across the rock spectrum, like you're saying, Kiss didn't have keyboards on that song. They did on some other albums. But there's some bands that did have keyboardists all the time, whether it's Journey, that you mentioned before that you toured with, Bon Jovi, right? Were there any rock keyboardists growing up that you looked up to? Or I know you said you were into other things, but there's any rock keyboardists you look up to?
Yeah, as far as chops wise, I think my favorite was Rick Wakeman.
Okay.
Certainly by my high school years. Yeah, Rick Wakeman from Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought he was great. But yeah, Elton John. A huge influence.
Of course, yes.
Massive influence on the way that I, particularly these piano ballads.
Sure.
Another one is Bruce Hornsby.
Okay,
I loved Bruce Hornsby back in the day. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, very very much. In fact, I think when I remember one of the first times I ever jammed with the Night Ranger guys at the studio, and I think it was Kelly who was like, I hear some Bruce Hornsby in there.
Oh, really?
Like, oh,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's very cool. Very cool. I know that Brad has mentioned, or I've seen him mention, that Night Ranger may look to record a new album next year. You guys talking about that, starting to work on it? Anything you could say about a possible new album for Night Ranger?
We've talked about it.
Okay.
And we were planning on getting together and all of us in a studio. We had planned it. It was on the calendar, and then it was planned for April.
Okay.
So everything's kind of on hold right now still. But yeah, definitely plans are in the works.
Okay.
To record another album. I look forward to it. Any
songs or song ideas being thrown around with the band? Are you guys not at that point yet?
Not that I've heard yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't heard any concrete song ideas yet.
Okay. Is there any talk between the bands of, hey, we think we'll be able to get back on tour in the fall, the winter, next spring? Obviously, things are very up in the air, but what does the band think when they'll be able to hit the road again?
Well, I don't know if those are questions that anybody can answer.
Of course.
Answer even
of
Live
course.
Nation,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can say for my part and from everybody in the band who I've talked to, that everybody wants to do it as soon as we're allowed to do it. As soon as it's like, whatever all governments decide, local governments. That's the hope right now. Is maybe it's like, all right, well, shows on the coast are canceled, but maybe there's going to be one of these states that hasn't gotten hit as hard. That's going to be like, we're going to open up music. So, but right now we're just waiting to see, just like everybody else. But we've had a couple times now. We've had full Zoom get-togethers.
Okay.
I wouldn't call them Zoom meetings. More like Zoom parties, I guess. Like, hey, let's just all get on Zoom, and we all, we all miss this. So, we all miss each other. So that's been nice, getting a chance to see everybody and hear how everybody's doing in the group context.
Absolutely. You mentioned earlier on the conversation, Sammy Hagar and The Circle, his great band. I'm sure you've seen probably some of the videos online that he's done with his band, which
they're great.
Which I think has Night Ranger ever spoken about? If you're doing these Zoom discussions, hey, maybe we should try to jam a minute or two on a song here and put it out. Any talk about that?
No, sorry to Sorry to burst the bubble.
Darn it.
Although I wouldn't be surprised,
Mm-hmm.
and if somebody called me, I would certainly be into it.
Yeah. I think the fans are just like anxious for any live music, and to me, Night Ranger fans would love that. But I get why bands don't do it. But when I see the Circle do it, I'm like, that's cool. That's cool.
They did great.
Yeah.
They really, yeah.
Yeah,
That
who's
was
sitting in
great
their kitchen
information.
playing guitar? I think Sammy's singing one song in the shower stall. I'm like, hey, this is cool. This is all cool. Very cool. So, going all the way back to the beginning here, you mentioned some of the other bands that you played with. Did I read right? The Edmonton Symphony Orchestra? Did you play with them also at some point?
Mm.
Oh, what
Yeah,
was that like?
That was one of the last shows actually before the pandemic.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, that was I think last weekend of February.
Oh, okay.
2 shows up in Canada. So, there's a group called Under the Street Lamp,
Mm-hmm.
and this is rock and roll, but a different kind of rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
So they were the group started with there's a Broadway show called The Jersey Boys,
Yep.
which is the story of Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons.
Sure.
And so at some point, the show was running in Chicago. Maybe I don't know, 8 years ago. It's something like this. Is when they got the idea, like, hey, we're playing this doo-wop group on stage every night. What if we actually just like do this and
Mm-hmm.
become a doo-wop group? And it doesn't just have to be Frankie Valli songs. It can be anything from the era.
Mm-hmm.
And they hooked up with PBS and did really well with the PBS specials, and that launched that group into nationwide touring. So being from Chicago originally, and them having the Chicago ties, at this point, the singers come from all over the country, which is great because, they're able to, wherever we're performing, wherever we're touring, it's like different people in the group are able to kind of shine with different genres.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be a really good blend of people. Plus, just like, it's like in a way I'm feeling like I'm still a part of the Chicago community,
Mm-hmm.
getting a chance to jam with them. But like most of all, they're just great people. Like
Right.
the people involved, they're just great people. So and they're very kind in understanding what my situation is, and very very much like, hey, can you make this show, or are you available for this? And but they're always understanding, like, hey, if Night Ranger comes in with a show, I'm going to be playing with Night Ranger. But
Right.
fortunately, with that band, they've got really well written charts, and
Mm-hmm.
it's easy enough for a piano player to jump in. So I love playing with them when it's possible. And for Under the Street Lamp, also things are on hold.
Sure.
Most of the shows with that group are theaters, and for an older crowd, who
Sure.
are around in the 50s and 60s.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's all on hold too. But I hope there's opportunity to do that again soon. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a core band of people who do it, but then a lot of times we'll play what they call symphony shows, which is
Sure.
performing with a symphony orchestra
Nice.
in whatever else city. And I stopped pursuing my practicing classical music seriously
Okay.
quite a long time ago,
Mm-hmm.
if I ever was serious about that in the first place, compared to people who really are great classical pianists.
Mm-hmm.
So I would not otherwise have the opportunity to be up on stage playing music with string players and
Mm-hmm.
timpani and the whole orchestra. So yeah, that's super rewarding.
Sure.
Super rewarding as well. Yeah.
Sure. So if Night Ranger decided to retire tomorrow, right? What would you look to do? And would you want to be in another rock band, touring with another rock band? Would you rather do something like the orchestra stuff that you say, the jazz fusion stuff that you've done? What would you want to do next in your career?
Wow.
You hope Night Ranger doesn't retire, I guess, right?
If I could retire and still be playing gigs, the way I look at my life is
Mm-hmm.
I'm so fortunate that my passion and my hobbies and my job, it's like sometimes the lines between that separate all of those are so gray that it's
Mm-hmm.
like, well, where does my passion end and my work begin?
Mm-hmm.
And it's, they're all so interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like, I've got this life to live, and I love playing music, and I have no intention of sitting around and watching TV and not doing anything. It's like I want to make something of this life, and I want to
Absolutely.
enjoy it and enjoy what I'm doing here. So,
Mm-hmm.
but as far as any exact plans, I can say that if I was stuck playing one genre of music and had no opportunity to do anything else, um, I think I'd be hoping for the opportunity to be
Right.
playing other genres,
Mm-hmm.
whatever genre of music that might be,
That
at
makes
this
sense.
point in my life, because it's like if I was playing all jazz fusion again,
Mm-hmm.
I would miss the rock. I
Right.
mean, I would really miss the rock.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
but that's what I'm loving about being able to do what I'm doing now from the home studio
Mm-hmm.
too, and us having the internet as we do. That wow,
Absolutely.
I could actually have all these keyboards set up and
Mm-hmm.
set up whatever all kind of grooves and beats, or having that creative freedom. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, especially uh, because of the internet and the way that we're using social media now, that I'm able to be musically fulfilled in a way that I never was
Absolutely.
earlier in life, no matter what my main project was.
Makes sense. Totally makes sense. One or two last questions. One lighthearted
Sure.
one here. Anybody ever tell you, I'm sure you got this, that, hey, you actually look like the original Night Ranger keyboardist? I'm sure you must have got that. It's very lighthearted, but I'm sure somebody must have said that to you along the way, right?
Oh, I mean, further than that, I think that's one of the main reasons why the band was looking
No.
at me from the start.
Okay, I can't
I'm not
believe that.
saying the music didn't have anything to, of
Yeah.
course the music was
I think the
key.
talent is what got you there, but go
Thank
ahead.
you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. And certainly, another consideration too in bands is it's like, you're going to be spending a lot of time together.
Mm-hmm.
So the having chemistry between people and personalities that are
Absolutely.
able to coexist in a positive way, that makes a huge difference. So
Mm-hmm.
it's, but yeah, all those things combined. But I think the way that I naturally look was also part of it. Yeah, because I've got the beard and I've got the
Right.
dark hair, and
Mm-hmm.
I was already wearing hats like this. And
Okay.
so the one thing that I'm doing is I put on the sunglasses when I hop
Mm-hmm.
up on stage,
Okay.
like Alan always
Mm-hmm.
did.
Mm-hmm.
So, but in a way, I think it's ultimately good,
Mm-hmm.
ultimately a good thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think it keeps me humble, and it keeps me having perspective of, like, all right, it's if I actually start believing the hype, and I'm like, yeah, this
Mm-hmm.
rock
Right. Right.
star, and look at me,
Right. Right.
if I like totally just go there 100%, it's good to be able to bring myself back to reality too, and
Mm-hmm.
remember, like, hey, I didn't. It's not like I chose what I would look like. I was born
Right. Of
to
course.
be this, and everything worked out
Of
where
course.
I hooked up with this band at the right time,
Mm-hmm.
for the right reasons. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the way I look, I'm sure, is part of the reason,
Yeah,
at least.
I don't think so, but it's funny to hear you say that. So
Thanks.
it's funny you saying, like, you don't want it to go to your head. You want to kind of stay grounded. And I saw online, if I'm not mistaken, somebody actually swiped your Twitter name and pretended to be you, right? So that's a sign that you
Yeah.
made it. If somebody wants to actually pretend that they're you, right?
Well, a lot of people told me that was probably a bot. So
Oh,
I don't know.
okay.
I don't know how much humanity was
I
involved, but
don't
yeah,
think.
thanks. That was kind of a fun moment. As
Uh-huh.
much as I don't want, uh, you know, some of the things I heard about what that account was
Oh no,
posting to
really?
people with private messages.
Oh
I'm like,
boy.
ooh, yeah. I hope nobody thought that was actually me.
That's very funny. Well, you put it out there that it wasn't. I'm sure people realized it wasn't. Is there anything else, Eric, that we didn't talk about today that you'd want Night Ranger fans to know, your fans to know? Anything that we didn't discuss?
Oh, thanks, Mike. Just it's myself, and I know everybody else at Night Ranger is ready and hoping it's soon that we're up on stage again,
Absolutely.
with our guitar amps cranked, and I can't wait. I can't wait for that time to come. And in the meantime, I love that I'm having more time with my kids and my family here,
Absolutely.
and time in the studio, and I'm trying to make what I can out of this time. But
Mm-hmm.
for anybody out there who enjoys the music, I hope we're able to do it again soon. And thank you for your passion. Thank you.
Excellent. No, and thank you. Thank you for helping keep Night Ranger alive on the road, sounding as great as ever. And we as fans look forward to hopefully concerts getting back and seeing the band back out on the road as well.
Awesome, Mike. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, Eric, thanks a lot. I appreciate your time today. I know the fans are going to love hearing all your stories. And again, just thank you for taking the time to chat today.
Right on. Anytime, Mike. Thanks so much.
Awesome.
Great talking to you.
Yes, same. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Eric. Alrighty, there you have it. I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation with Eric as much as I did. I'd like to take a moment and just say thank you to Eric for spending over an hour with me and being so kind and cool during our entire conversation. I really had a lot of fun, Eric. Thanks a lot. Hopefully, Night Ranger will be out on the road again soon, and all of us fans will be able to enjoy seeing Eric and the band performing live again. While you're here, hit that subscribe button below on my YouTube channel. If you're listening on one of my podcasts, hit subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Until next time, see you later.